OK, well, let's talk about another world title fight, because 46-year-old Bernard Hopkins could make history this weekend. He will surpass George Foreman as boxing's oldest world champion if he defeats Jean Pascal.
This is a bittersweet opportunity for me because George Foreman has always been a guy that we came up on, and I say we, my era, with the Ali, the Joe Frazier's, the George Foreman. So I'm going to represent history very well. There's not too many fighters can be able to have this kind of opportunity. And so I will not sneeze at this. I will take this title, and I will become the oldest champion and maybe the oldest athlete today in any sport. So thank you, George. And, again, I would like to tell everybody it's a bittersweet opportunity for me because of George's legacy. But it's in good hands, George.
All records were set to be broken, and I'm just hoping someone will come back and do it at 65 so I can come back again.
I'll be right behind you, hopefully.
Well, that was Bernard Hopkins and George Foreman. And George joins us live now from Texas. How are you, George?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
You're not serious, are you? You're not going to come back at 65?
Let someone come back at 62 and I'll do it.
But in all seriousness, did you think that anyone would ever come close to beating your record?
I did not. I thought, boy, at 45, that'll be the end of that. But then in reality, I was an athlete. After that fight, I was also named Athlete of the Year. So they didn't put the emphasis on boxing as much as athletes can still be productive at a later age.
I tell you what, you're an inspiration to all of us sitting in this studio, George.
I really appreciate that. And what Bernard Hopkins is doing is really for the betterment of not only boxing, but all sports. He's just raising the bar every time someone breaks a record. Things get better for us.
And also, George, if you think about it, you had 10 years away saving souls. So you had a break. He's continued to fight for world titles throughout that 10-year period.
And that's what's most phenomenal about it. The man is active, and he is in good shape. He's a better counterpuncher and boxer than I ever could have been. And it was kind of disheartening to me because if I hadn't taken that break, I probably would have been a lot better boxer myself without taking the 10 years off.
I got a note from his publicist today, George, Hopkins' publicist, and it says that his career has spanned 7 US presidential terms and 11 Olympic Games. That's pretty special, isn't it?
Oh, that's pretty old.
Is it too old? Do you think he's going to win at the weekend?
I think that he should go out there seeking a knockout, though. Trying to go 12 rounds and then wait around to see if the judges like you as much as it's like a beauty contest that way. Seek a knockout. Spell it out. Do it decisively. Go for the knockout. I think he can do it.
Yeah, George, I was with you in Tokyo when you fought that guy Crawford Grimsley, and I was talking to you and Angelo Dundee, and I remember saying to Angelo, how much work do you do with George in the gym? And you turned to me and you said to me, all Angelo does is remind me about things that I've forgotten. Do you think it's the same with Bernard?
That's the way it goes. A trainer doesn't have to do it, but say remember or tell an old boxing story in the corner. You don't have to do anything because you get to a certain point that everything is in order. You do a little running and a little shadow boxing, and you're pretty much ready.
Was there a point, George, towards the end of when you were competing for that final world title? Was there a point where you started to think, yeah, those knees are starting to ache a little bit? That I'm not getting out of bed quite so easily in the morning.
That had no effect on me, but what really had the most profound effect was. You get in the ring with some of the guys, and you note their parents had been telling them, be another George Foreman, be like George. And there I was in the ring fighting the children of those parents, and that bothered me. I figured, what am I doing beating up or trying to knock out one of these kids and their parents have already told them to be like me. And that bothered. After a while, you start thinking, I shouldn't be bothered with these children.
George, we've got a couple of we've got a big fight this weekend, a big grudge match this weekend. Two young kids who are amateur boxers. Listen to this story, George. Amateur boxers together. They were in the same gym for 10 years. They boxed each other as amateurs. One went away and won a gold medal at the Olympics, and now they're fighting as pros in front of about 18,000 people. It's a great grudge match, but you were involved in one or two. George, what of your grudge matches? Which one of your grudge matches, or did you not have any grudge matches, is the best?
But you know what? I mustered up a lot of distaste and dislike during the 70s for Muhammad Ali. When I got in that ring with him, I said, I'm going to take care of this fella. He's opened his mouth once too much. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to knock him out in 2 or 3 rounds. That was the last of my grudge matches.
That's the point we've been making, that, you know, all this animosity in the build-up can affect how a boxer performs on the night, can't it? It can completely change his strategy.
Everything disappears because you can't. This has got to be a sport. It's an honorable sport, and you've got to be on the top of your game. And the last thing on your mind is a grudge. Should be a grudge, a revenge, or I'm going to show you something. It's got to be basics from first round to the final round. Basic boxing and punching if you have the ability. Once you interject the other, the better fighter could lose because of it.
And we must ask you about Hay against Klitschko as well, George, if we can. I think that's July the 2nd, isn't it, that fight's coming up. Is there much anticipation of that building up in the US at the moment?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, you know, the Klitschko has been a fine champion. He's represented the sport real good and probably basically too good for a whole generation of boxers, but not much excitement. Not much excitement yet.
What do you make of David Hay?
He's a good one. I think he can surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people are hoping that he does.
Yeah.